Oh, wow, that's broken. This right here is FS's NVR202-8C-8P. So this is the network video recorder, wow, we're off to a great start, that I asked for them to send over so I could check it out. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna just see what it's all about, and hopefully they'll send some cameras over so we can at least test it out, see what it's like with running cameras, see how it performs, things of that nature. So just for today, we're just going to do an overview of this actual unit itself. Originally, I thought this was a rebranded Dawa, I don't actually know how to say that brand, NVR system, but when I looked around to see if it was, it looked similar to some of Dawa's other NVRs, but there were some differences that I noticed, and they didn't seem to offer this particular configuration that's with 8 channels and 8 PoE ports. But we'll get into some more of those details here in a moment. I guess before we open it up, let's at least take a look around it to see what is all on this unit. In the box, of course, we have the NVR itself, a manual or quick start guide, power for 2 hard drives, SATA connectors for 2 hard drive screws, power adapter, and of course a nice little mouse. Oh, and last but not least, feet for the actual bottom of the unit. On the front, we have what seems to be an IR receiver, infrared receiver. I don't actually know, it doesn't say in the manual. It is not a button, does not power on the device, that is on the rear. We have a USB 2.0 here for your peripherals, and then we also have a running light, a network light, a hard drive connectivity light, as well as a cloud activity light. So that is all that is on the front. On the rear side, we have a ground connector, 8 PoE ports. These are 802.AF and AT compliant, or supply up to 30 watts of power. We have a network adapter, audio out, VGA, alarm in and out, and as well as a HDMI port that is capable of supporting up to 4K resolution at 30 hertz or 30 frames per second, and a USB 3.0 port, and of course where you plug in power and an on and off switch. Sweet. So now that we got that stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and get this thing cracked open. So there's a screw on the right side, 1 screw on the left side, and it looks like 4 screws on the rear, and that's all it takes to get this open. Now this is a 1U unit and can be rack mounted. However, it doesn't come with rack mount ears, which is odd. So we will have to place this on a shelf. Actually, let me double check real quick to see if it comes with rack ears. No rack ears. So unfortunately, we'll have to place this on a shelf in the server rack or on top of something else, whatever might be in there. To open the unit, you simply grab the rear, slide it back, and lift up the chassis, and you have full access to the internals of this system. Not a whole lot going on in here. Now that we've got this thing cracked open, we can take a poke around. Looks like it's got a speaker right there, which is kind of cool. That must be for our alarm. Looks like this version can come with different configurations. This may be RAM right here. Slightly better look at those chips that I believe is RAM. So all sorts of controllers. I'm guessing under here is our CPU. This is probably going to be a custom core. I don't see any other identifying markers to let us know what it is. I could remove this, but I'm not going to in this case because I don't want to break anything, as I'm not comfortable actually taking that off, even though I could. Looks like there is a USB controller right here. Nope, that is a LED. Oh, nope, I'm on the wrong side. This is for our alarm. That is not a USB controller, I was way off. Power to the motherboard from our power supply, which is 180 watts. So that's interesting. I wonder how loud this is going to be. We'll check that out when the time comes. And then of course we've got 2 interesting ports here for, oh, this is hard drive power. So it's 4 pins for hard drive power. That's definitely interesting. And then here's our little fan. That's probably a standard fan right there. And this looks like it is not 80 millimeter. we'll see how loud this unit is. All right, I think that's pretty much everything to see in here. Of course, this is where we plug in the hard drives. So yeah, but I think that's everything. Not much else to see. So this unit says it supports 2¼ inch hard drives, but I'm actually going to try and use some SSDs with this. It should work technically because they're both SATA based, and we'll see what happens. Now, I don't have any hard drives on hand, so we won't actually be able to see if it will support any hard drives larger than 10 terabytes because it claims that it can only take 10 terabyte hard drives in size. Where are all my tools? There we go. So let's get these installed and see what's up. Here are the mounting holes for our hard drives. It looks like we can actually take different sizes. So our SSD will actually fit here, and there's some vent holes here for air, which is awesome. And it looks like it'll also take the very large hard drives with using these holes here, some combination of those. So nothing to worry about. No side mounting options, just simply straight through the bottom of the device. So let's go and get our first SSD mounted. We're going to put our SATA and power facing this way, inside, or towards the inside, and same with the other one. We're going to face SATA power this way. Okay, interesting. So, oh wow, that's broken. Looks like the holes on my SSD are not threaded appropriately for the included screws. I'm wondering if that's going to apply to hard drives. So I'm going to try and locate a hard drive real quick. I'll be right back. Let's try this again, but this time with a 14 terabyte hard drive. All right, that fits perfectly that time. So yeah, it would, I guess not all SSDs can fit inside of this, so beware of that. First hard drive is installed. As it would turn out, I am installing these incorrectly, so I'm going to show you the proper way to install the hard drive this time, or mount the hard drive this time. So screw this down just a little bit, not all the way, just enough to actually get a couple of threads in there. So now that we got those screws in, we should just actually be able to slide it in these holes and it just sits there. And then now we can screw it down. So that was like 10 times easier than what I was trying to do earlier. So don't be like me. Now we don't have that same option with SSDs. I guess we're going to start with those 14 terabyte hard drives first, and then we'll try the SSDs later, the SATA SSDs later. Now those are only 512 gigabytes. Not that it really matters for anything we're doing today, because we, like I said, we don't have any cameras that we can actually use with this thing yet. Hoping to get those, but when we get there, we'll see what happens. I just want to see if the 14 terabytes will even show up in the operating system. I'm sure we can use them, but you know, on the website it says that it only takes up to 10 terabyte hard drives, which seems kind of odd to me. At first I thought it was nice that they included adapters. It is kind of weird because these seem proprietary. They're probably not proprietary. I don't know. I've never actually seen any kind of SATA power connector like this before. So that's why I use the word proprietary, but again, it may not be. I'm just plugging these 4 pins into their respective spots, and we're just gonna plug these into the hard drives. It's also interesting, these are actually Western Digital shucked drives, so I'm not sure if these 4 pin will actually work with these hard drives. You may have to use off-the-shelf drives, but we're gonna check it out anyway and see where we get. Glad to see that these have a locking mechanism on these SATA connectors. I love when that happens. That usually prevents issues down the road with the SATA connector slipping out. One thing I would have liked to seen is maybe some rubber feet or rubber pads or grommets, whatever you would like to call them, for the hard drives. So that way they're not just vibrating up against bare metal. Probably not going to be an issue, to be honest, but it would have been nice to have, but not really a big deal. And I'm hoping these hard drives actually show up in this NVR because, like I said, they are the shucked drives from Best Buy, and they may have that issue with, or the 4.1 or 1.1 volt issue, whatever it is. They have like basically an extra pin that usually needs Captain tape to block it, so it can work in a lot of computers and systems or with certain power supplies. So we'll see what happens. A little nervous about that one. She's ready to go. Let's talk about a few more things specifically with this device and its capabilities and what you can expect out of it before we plug it in for the very first time and see what the operating system is like and all that jazz. One worthy thing to note here is that you can only get 130 watts total out of these ports here. So each port is capable of doing 30 watts, but if you try to use 8 cameras that are 30 watts, you will not be able to power them all because that will require 240 watts of power. And again, you're only capable of pulling 130 watts from these ports. So that's something important to keep in mind. This is a gigabit port, which is nice. So that means reviewing 4K video will be more than doable. And speaking of 4K video, this unit itself is only capable of displaying 2 streams simultaneously at 4K 30 FPS. You can, of course, get live playback and live view with those 2 streams, which is nice. I don't know how bad it would be if you try to do more than that. That's something we can hopefully look at in the future. And of course, you can support 8 cameras from the 8 ports here in the rear, which is cool. It is capable of decoding H.265 and H.264 streams, which is nice. It's got a 2-year warranty out of the box, which is okay, I suppose. If you were to load this thing up with 2 10-terabyte hard drives, giving you a total storage capacity of 20 terabytes, you could record 24/7 up to 1,724 days at 4K 30 FPS, of course. One thing to see here is I've left fingerprints all over this already, which is weird because this is not a gloss finish. I must be really oily today. Now, there are a couple ways to configure this device. One way would be to bust out a monitor like I am. You don't have to do this. You can configure this using that rear port or over the network. The default IP address for this unit is 192.168.1.30. So once you get presented with the web interface, you could simply type in the username and password, which should be admin. I'm not going to do that today because I want to do a more conclusive, more exclusive, I don't know, a more covered video in the future, setting this thing up from start to finish when we actually have cameras to use with it. This is just to take a look at the interface at this point and kind of see what we can expect during setup, and mostly checking to see if we can see those 14 terabyte hard drives as well as SSDs. Oh boy, I need a lot more stuff. Let's get this thing all plugged in. Shouldn't be too bad to do. It just requires a little bit of effort on my part because I was not prepared for this. Thankfully, I have everything I need and don't have to purchase anything. Oops, didn't mean to drop that. Finally getting power into it. It should not turn on because it is not configured that way. All right, I think we got everything. Let's see if it just powers on by itself without pushing anything. It does have appeared to boot up immediately. So quickly come over here so we can see what happens on the monitor. It took about 15 seconds to boot up there. Not terribly long, in my opinion. Hopefully this is some kind of Linux kernel. All right, we're gonna use English as default. Here's that password I mentioned earlier. All right, the rear USB doesn't appear to be working. Let me remove the mouse and see if my keyboard works. We have no keyboard, so we'll have to type this in manually. So admin is the password. This mouse is not very good. I should just use a different one. Oh man, without a keyboard, this is gonna be difficult. Let's see if we can get any keyboard here to work. My Dell one doesn't seem to work at all. This one isn't working either. Let's try the rear port one more time. That sucks. All right, just for a sanity check, let's just double check the Dell keyboard once more. Nope, no power, no lights, no functionality at all. Well, that sucks. All right, so obviously the ideal way to configure this would be through the web portal. All right, we'll do it the hard way with the mouse. I really don't want to use the included mouse. It is not good. That's what happens when you're used to using a really nice mouse. Okay, that works. All right, let's set a password then. Interesting, we got past the password finally. Now it wants me to draw a unlock pattern. At least 4 dots, so we will just do an L. All right, and we're finally in the wizard. Yeah, we'll do year. So this is the ideal way to do this for computers. I don't know, let's just set. That's fine, doubling doesn't matter. Enable DHCP. I hope that's the default action, which is cool. PoE NIC IP address, that's interesting. Oh, that must, oh cool, so it's like already got its own VLAN maybe? For cameras? We're gonna have to see that in the future. Okay, I guess that's it. Not a whole lot of options in here. And don't have a keyboard, of course, so it really can't do anything else. Oh, neat. So this shows us the default IP address for each one of these cameras it's expecting. So I'm guessing this is going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. We have a 9th one here. 2, 3. Oh wait, no, I just can't count. So that's 8, and we can't have a 9th camera. There's no options in here. There's nothing that I can really do. Oh, right-clicking gave us some options. Yeah, we're gonna have to connect this thing to the network. Oh, there we go. Now we're in the menu. All right, take that back. Maybe there is options. No camera supports encoding, image, privacy mask, PZT. Man, you really can't do anything without the network. You can set some more settings for TCP, peer-to-peer, server address, star4live.com. That's interesting. Add without signing up. So that's a default action, I think, to just enable peer-to-peer. Definitely not something you want to do. Sweet. It's got DDNS, some email stuff. SNMP, enable service alarm for an IP address. That's interesting. Advanced PPPoE connection. Change the default ports. That's good. Oh, it even gives you an example of how to access the RTSP streams. That's nice. Port mapping, UPnP. So you can just turn this off if you want to do UPnP mode. And here's all the addresses it's expecting out of the box. Supports multicast and FTP, file transfer protocol. More options here. Let's go to system. Give it a host name, ID, password, preview. Oh, okay, this is where we would change our default views for however you like. It's nice. Change the time. Add and remove users. Security. So we have a backup feature right here. Recording backup. That's interesting. Image. All right, storage. Recording. Blah, 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 blah. Scheduling. Can you enable snapshot schedules? That's cool. Okay, so it does recognize the 14 terabyte hard drives. That's freaking awesome. Now that we know it supports 14 terabytes, I'm really, really interested to see if we can stick those SSDs in there and see if they actually work. I assume they will, but, you know, I'd rather test it. We can overwrite the hard drive when it's full. That's interesting. Under alarm here, we have motion triggers or motion detection and triggers. We have a little slider for sensitivity. We have different trigger actions. This doesn't seem to actually do anything. Maybe because I need a camera. Yep, I need to select a camera first in order to select trigger actions. Okay, fine. Okay, yep. Okay, can't do tampering. Human body detection. Video loss, that's actually kind of cool. So we have trigger actions. I'm guessing you can do things like emails, an arming schedule. That's interesting. Input output, alarm status disabled, alarm type. I'm guessing, yeah, and you can enable your alarm input. One click disarming, blah, 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 blah. Here's different alert types. IP conflict, network disconnected, disk offline, disk abnormal, illegal access, hard disk space low, hard disk full, recording, snapshot, abnormal. Okay, we've got lots of options. Buzzer, send email, pop-up window. That's kind of cool. So the buzzer is the internal one, send an email, pop-up window. Audio detection doesn't allow us to click on it. Buzzer. Duration, oh my gosh, thank goodness. You can set a custom duration here. Doorbell call, so I guess if we had a doorbell camera, maybe this would do something. Flow control, all cameras, trigger actions, enable, alarm threshold 1. All right, well that's basically everything. Yeah, that's basically everything. Got some network information here, logs, which we can't see anything. Factor default, okay, so that's in maintenance, of course. Auto function, upgrade. We can do a local upgrade. I'm guessing via USB or just doing it through the cloud. Hard drive, we can do smart test. This is a nice feature. You can do a smart test while it's actually in the device. That's really cool. Looks like it's actually already read some stuff from my current hard drive. 25 degrees Celsius inside of the bay right now. Powered on and off 72 times. Nice. Okay. One-click connect. IPC diagnosis info. NVR diagnosis. We can't really do anything with this. Awesome. Before we check to see how loud this thing is, let's actually open it back up and switch to the SATA SSDs. Now, this thing seems pretty loud, right? No, it's not pretty loud. This is definitely not, this is something that can sit in a quiet office space, but for people that really like super, super quiet offices, I think it's probably too loud, but this is definitely something like if I was in the work environment, the ambient noise of work would definitely be much louder, significantly louder than this device is. And I think it's only loud because the hard drives are spinning in there and there's no sort of like vibration protection with like rubber grommets. And I think that's what's accounting for the noise. Now I did tell it to shut down and it's taking a while to shut down. Basically since I've started talking, it's been shutting down. Not really sure what it's doing. But if it doesn't shut down before I get the case removed, I'm going to power it off manually. Okay, time for SSDs to be installed here. All right, there we go. Let's get this thing booted back up and see how loud it is finally. Okay, we're about 5 feet, give or take, from the NVR. And the device seems to be around 31 to 32 decibels, so not terrible. The fan on this one right here is definitely loud, so you might want to replace that if you can't stand the noise. Okay, last check. Let's see if we can see those SSDs now that they're installed. Bring up the menu. Oops. Nope. Oh God. This mouse is terrible. There we go. Maintenance, hard drives. Oh wait, that's not right. Storage, hard disk. Yep, so totally can see the SSDs too. Sees both of them as unformatted, so that's awesome. All right, well that pretty much concludes this video. Again, we're gonna take a look at this thing in the future when we get a camera from FS. Hopefully they actually send one over sometime soon so I can make that video. And that really is all there is to say about this unit. If you guys have any particular questions, go ahead and post them in the comment section below so I can make sure to address those in the next video I make about this in VR when we do the complete setup of it. And with all that being said, I hope to see you all next time. Cheers, peace. Cheers. I messed that outro up, whatever.